Hello, my name is Andrew Dunn, and I will be looking at data analysis on student performance. I'll be looking at a few elements. One of the components that I will begin with looking at is the analysis of the Georgia milestone, and these are the EOC scores for 2015. Now, when I say the Georgia milestone, I am including all of the content scores from science, social studies, math, as well as ELA. All of the classes that require an EOC are included in this data. So this part hasn't been broken down. However, it does show that there are there's some information here that needs to be addressed. And one of the things that jumps out is that CRIM, the school that I teach at, CRIM is a school in Atlanta Public School District. It is considered an open campus high school. In this particular school, it has showed that it is one of the lower performing schools, with 82% of the students scoring at a beginner level in the EOC scores, and this is across the board, all of the content classes that have an EOC. 16% are developing, and within that 16% there is some proficiency. But if you can see, the vast majority have not achieved proficiency, and there are some factors that need to be taken into account when looking at this data. And the first thing that needs to be taken into an account is the students at CRIM are considered low socioeconomic status, with 100% of the students on free and reduced lunch, mainly free lunch to be properly stated. And that says a picture. And the fact that they do not come from an environment where resources are just readily available to them, whether it's financial resources or academic sources in terms of support. So there is a drop-off in the amount of support that they get at home. Academics, more than likely, is not a top priority in the household for a number of different reasons, finances probably being one, as well as previous academic experience from parents and grandparents and other family members and so on. Another problem that links to academic inadequacy is attendance. And with low socioeconomic students, if you could look at this graph right here, you will see that the attendance amongst males and females, the lack of attendance and the number of days missed are extremely high. If you can see here, I'm showing you males that have missed 30 days or more, it's about 68%, and females that have missed days in excess of 30 are going to be 74%, roughly. So that tells a lot in terms of the amount of academic instructional time missed. And that tells a story when going back to the scores and showing that there is not there's so much time being missed due to poor attendance, and you couple that with the low academic skill level, with students reading below grade level and having below proficiency in basic math, and the limited background knowledge that they have, or the lack of exposure that they have due to whatever environment they come from. This leads to a point where you'll have students that are not intrinsically motivated to perform well. And that's why we're trying to reverse this trend here at CRIM and in APS as a whole. Here's a graph or chart of the overall milestone scores of 2015. And if you look closely, you'll see that CRIM is at an 82% beginner level, with only 16% developing and in the proficiency range. If you look at our counterpart, which is one of our better schools, which has a lot smaller low socioeconomic and at-risk percentage of students, you'll see that the scores are a lot different. That being Grady High, North Atlanta, and Charles Drew. These scores show that only roughly an average around 25% of the EOC scores, of the students taking EOC scores, have reached the beginning level, whereas 70 to 75% of these students reach a score that is developing and reach the level of proficiency, with even 10%, roughly 10 to 11%, at a distinguished score level or score range. So that lets you know that the training and the socioeconomic status plays a huge part in student performance, and the strategies that need to be put in place are also very important for students that need that additional support. So those are some things that need to be addressed. I'm going to skip down to the GAPS objectives, which is the state's way of gauging effectiveness and the progress of a school and a district. And in this particular case, this slide shows you the purpose of GAPS and how the state scores or measures that level of effectiveness based on the data. So they use School Keys and alternative education program. So with that being the case, it shows that, I'm going to go to this graph right here, and it shows that the state, when they came and analyzed the school a couple of years ago, they showed that there has been some findings that they would like to see improve. And if you look at this pie chart, the strands are listed here, 8 strands: curriculum, assessment, instruction, planning and organization, school, family and community support, professional learning, leadership and school culture. And they saw, based on their walkthrough, that they wanted to see more professional learning in terms of training teachers and faculty on how to specifically and effectively teach students who are at risk, how to make academics meaningful and relevant to this particular subgroup or this particular group in general. They also wanted to see even more instruction fused by technology, and that technology would have to be in line with pretty much what the marketplace is looking for. And these are the elements that the state was looking for. They also wanted to make sure curriculum, which is aligned with instruction to a certain degree, connects. And they also wanted to know that the family, school, community, and support would improve, because that's a component that is part of the low socioeconomic characteristic or traits, so to speak. So the research shows when there's low community and family support, that the performance of the students in that particular area or subgroup will decline as well. So there's a direct impact between community family support as well as student performance and intrinsic motivation. So those elements are going to be addressed in our school going forward to a degree where we will constantly or more periodically measure the resources, measure our growth in terms of what is working and what we need to improve on in terms of getting our students prepared for post-secondary endeavors and post-secondary accomplishments. So the school is working hard towards striving in that direction.